Just talking about the future, but building it face to face. We don't equal permission. We don't grow alone. Every conversation matters. Every seed we've sown. This is elevate your growth, where the vision gets louder, but we rise together, and the move makes you stronger. Pull up the seat you belong.
Hello, everybody. Hello. I'm just hopping on and tagging everybody so you know that I'm here. And we are going to be talking today about conversations into conversions, okay? Because if you're anything like I was, I was not selling with confidence years ago. I would get nervous when it would come to asking for the sale. I really wouldn't know what to talk about. I felt like sales were kind of yucky and sleazy. So I would shy away from it. I really wouldn't lean into it. I was very nervous for a very long time. But if that sounds anything like you, if you start to get uncomfortable, you feel like you're lacking confidence, you're unsure of what to say and all the things, this is definitely a conversation for you. We're going to go over how you can transition from that to feeling all that anxiety to selling with confidence. Okay, so let's break it down the two levels and what it is that you're looking like right off the bat. So the amateur approach, this is where you start. Okay, and this is where I started, and this is what happens if you need a guide, if you need a kind of flow, you don't really know which way to go with it. You start with a script. You memorize a script. Either the company that you're supporting gives you a script, or if you're running your own business, you look up what exactly to say, how to have these conversations, okay? Then the leadership approach, after you master the process, that's where things get a little easier. You don't shy away from the ask. You don't misunderstand what it is that you're doing. You completely understand that sales is actually service, that you're giving the people that you are speaking to the opportunity to have a transformation, to experience an outcome as a result of them purchasing from you. So essentially, we are just standing in the gap of what it is that people want and what their desired outcomes are. And we're showing them how we can help get them from point A to point B. Okay, so here's what the framework looks like. The conversation framework is, first off, we got to make sure we're connecting with the people that we're speaking to. We have to make sure that we're opening up by listening. Something that I see, something that I did a lot when I was first entering into sales, and I was very nervous about what it looked like, is I would just lead with all of the perks and everything you get. And I was trying to build up the value of what it was that I was selling, instead of connecting and talking to the person and seeing what it is that they're actually looking for. That is essentially the best formula. Is connecting, asking questions, listening, seeing if you can actually offer the transformation that this person's looking for. And in that connection, that's when you're going to discover those. You're going to discover everything that you need to know about that person. What are their pain points? What are the areas that they're looking for solutions for? What are the things that they're tired of dealing with? It equips you to receive all the information that you need so that you can best serve that person. And then you move the conversation into educating them on what it is that you do so that you know how to serve them with excellence, and so do they. You educate them on what that looks like, on your process, and making sure your process is simplified, okay? And then you want to invite them into the process. That's when you offer them the opportunity to move forward if this is the right fit for them. You have to essentially ask them for the sale. You have to invite them to experience the transformation that you're offering. And then you follow through on the very things that you exhibited to them. Everything that you said, everything that you want to help them do, you got to follow it through to the very end. You got to make sure that you are operating in excellence, because this person is trusting you. And it's our job as people that all of you are here, everybody that is listening to this, you are somebody that operates in excellence. So we have to make sure that we follow through on our promises. Okay? So that is your conversation framework. So, how do you connect in a conversation where you're essentially trying to sell somebody something? You're trying to offer your services. Okay. First thing, you got to go in with your objective. Your objective is essentially to build trust with this person. You have to build trust with your potential clients before discussing business. It is a grave mistake. Let's say you have a customer call. You got to talk to them on Tuesday at 9:30 and you go right in talking about business. That is not even essentially business etiquette. Unless, of course, the client on the other side is time crunch, they're limited on time, they just want to get to the nitty gritty. But really, it is in your best interest to have time to discuss what the person's desired outcome is. And in that process, you are building trust with that person. And then you segue into doing business. So here's what that looks like in real time. Okay. So you say things like, so tell me about your business. What inspired you to start? What's your biggest win this year? What are you focused on right now? These are literally just conversation starters so that you're not going right into your sale. You're not going right into the sales conversation. You are building with that person and getting to know them. Okay? That is so important. Because here's the thing. People buy from people that they like. And if you hop on a call with somebody and go right into the sales and you're not actually having a chat with them and getting to know them, building like trust with them, then you have a lower chance of converting a sale with this person because you're getting straight down to business and you're not allotting time for the relationship to grow. So make sure that in these conversations, you are allowing time for there to be growth, allowing time for you to ask your client questions. Okay? So step 2 is you're discovering things about them. This was one of the biggest ways that I failed. Is I would go straight into pitch, straight into why this is great and why you should choose us and why this is the best and here are the perks, instead of actually asking the person questions to see what it is that they are looking for. Because what difference does it make if I'm telling somebody how wonderful all of these perks are, how wonderful all these things are, and none of those are meeting their needs? I'm rattling off ways that this is going to help them, and they don't need any of it. Inadvertently, they're going to feel like this person doesn't know what I want at all. I'm good. Instead of asking questions such as, what challenges are you trying to solve right now? What's preventing you from there? And what would success look like? And what this does is this informs you of what their desired expectations are, what their desired outcome is, because it's easier for you to hit a target if you know what it is. It's easy for you to create a transformation in somebody's life if you know what they want. And then you ask them the question, you ask them the cost of inaction. What happens if nothing changes? What happens if you don't address this? What happens if you do not do anything? If you don't pull the trigger and you don't address this, what's going to happen? And you allow them to speak to what the outcome is going to be if they don't make a decision and decide to move forward with you. What is that going to result in for them? So something that we have to make sure that we understand about turning conversations into conversions is it's actually the opposite of what you think. When we are closing sales on a daily and we are closing high net individuals, high worth, high value, when we're closing these sales consistently, we're actually doing more listening than we are talking. When we get on a sales call, it's not talking, convincing. It is actually asking questions so that we can better understand our client on the other side of the table or the other side of the call, to make sure that the offers and the solutions that we offer them are actually going to solve their problem. Okay, so step 3 is to educate. So the objective of this is to position your solution around their needs. Remember, we are constantly thinking outwardly. We're not thinking from our perspective of how this situation will best serve us. We're thinking from the perspective of the person that we're serving, how this solution is going to help their needs. Okay, so what we don't want to do is we don't want to be pitching people. Okay, instead of saying we offer, we want to release that from our slogan, from our conversations, from what it is that we say. And instead we want to be teaching. You want to call back to the person what it is that they said. Let them know that you're listening. Let them know that you understand the pain that they're going through. And say things like, well, based on what you shared, here's what I believe would help. Based on what you said, here's what I believe would help. So here today, as you hear this, remove the pitch ideology from your language and stop saying we offer and replace it with, based on what you said, here's what I believe would help, and watch your sales increase with just that little tidbit. But in order to get to this, in order to be able to educate and teach your potential client, you have to be able to listen. You have to first ask all of the questions that we discussed. So the next step is you then invite them. We're never pressuring. And Elevate Your Growth, the way that we teach, never pressuring people. You're just simply inviting people. So would it make sense to explore this together? Would you be open to seeing how this works? Would you like me to show you what that could look like? These are all questions that takes you from your last frame of, based on everything that you told me, this is what I think would work best for you. Would it make sense for us to dive deeper into this subject? Do you want to hear more about what would be helpful in this situation? So then that's the invitation. That's the segue into you continuing the conversation. This is essentially asking for the sale. This is bridging the gap. And this is where typically a step 4, the invitation, asking for the sale, the moving the conversation forward. This is where people typically kind of stall out. This is where anxiety kicks up and you do either one or two things. You have the invitation, but you're like stammering, you're not confident, or you become service that you don't actually ever get to the invite. You never get to asking for the sale. You just kind of pivot and never get to that part of the conversation because you're so anxious. But with this approach, your confidence, it feels more like a collaboration. It doesn't feel like you are chasing somebody for a sale. It feels like I'm your partner. We're in this together. This is a solution that I have that can help you with this problem. And not only does it feel like that, but it is like that. That's the reality of the situation when you approach it from this way. Okay, so here's the objections because we get plenty of these, right? This is the objection deflection loop. So respond with curiosity. Okay, they have their objections. I have to speak to my spouse. I got to start in a couple of months, whatever the objection is, right? And you could just say simply, I completely understand. Or tell me more. Or exactly what gives you pause? Why do you feel like you need to start in 3 months as opposed to starting today? What's the hesitation? Right? Because then you get to clarify before you answer. You get to see what their actual objection is. Sometimes it might be monetary, but typically people have objections and they don't want to move forward because it's a lack of clarity or confidence, a lack of trust. It's other pillars, it's other foundational things that make them stray away from moving forward with working with you. And then when you lead with curiosity, when you ask questions about, well, what's going on? Then that gives you the opportunity to continue the conversation to better understand them. And just because somebody says they want to start in 3 months, put it on your calendar. If they're like, it's been a really rough time, my family members are in the hospital, whatever the case is, just because somebody wants to start in a couple of months doesn't necessarily mean that they will not start. Put it on your calendar and say, okay, you want to start in a couple of months? How about I reach back out to you in a couple of months, and then put it on your Google Calendar 3 months from that day. And of course, you're going to be consistently talking to this person, right? We just don't go cold on leads that have a little bit of more of an elongated time frame. We don't do that. We continue to add value in their lives. We continue to show up. And then you say, okay, well, I'll check back in with you in 3 months from today. How's December 1st? That's 3 months from today. Do you think that'll give you enough time? Put it on your calendar. Call them back December 1st. Because some people will give you the runaround and they will not convert. With other people, it really just is a time. The timing is wrong, and they could 100% convert at the later time frame. But with the objection deflection loop, this gives you the opportunity to be curious about what their objection is and to offer them clarity, because sometimes they just might be unclear about something, and that is resulting in them being hesitant. And then you can offer them clarity by continuing to answer their questions. Okay. So you want to definitely make sure that you're doing step 5 and you're following through. Because most people, honestly, they quit after one conversation. But professionals, we stay present. We stay persistent. And we continue even after we close the sale. We continue to add value, offer resources, offer encouragement, and we remain consistent. So this goes for if you close the deal or if you didn't close the deal. You want to continue to have follow through, because people may feel this has happened to me in terms of me being on the other side of, if I was going to move forward with something, and I just had to do some other things and didn't want to start until a later time. And then I never hear from that person again until it's time, the time that I originally said. I'm not going to necessarily think this person actually cares. It's just going to lean more to the transactional. So you want to continue to follow up, adding value and resources and encouragement and consistency. And then that will create more space and time to close the gap for that person to then trust you. Because truly, persistence without pressure, it really builds trust. And follow up wins deals, big and small. Half the time, showing up is just enough to move forward with closing deals and making people our clients and our customers. Okay. So here's our fantastic checklist. This is what you can gauge when you're having conversations. So before every conversation, run the diagnostic. Do I know who I'm serving? Have I prepared thoughtful questions? Am I listening more than talking? Am I creating clarity? Have I made a confident invitation? So before every conversation, you keep these things front of mind. And you wonder if you're going into these sales conversations positioned properly to close. And knowing and understanding your product or your offer well enough to be able to lead and guide this conversation in a way where you can transform somebody's life by offering them the transformation that only you can offer them. There's only one you. You are your unique value proposition. And that's no small thing. So here's the leadership challenge. Here's what I want you guys to do. Okay, so within the next 48 hours, have 3 intentional conversations. You're not going to focus on making a sale. Okay, don't focus on that. You are going to be focusing on building trust, asking better questions, okay, providing value, and extending a confident invitation. So use it as a means to practice, to get comfortable. And yes, if you are already in a position where you feel uncomfortable with sales calls, if you're like I was and it feels like weird and off-putting and awkward and you feel like you're being yucky, that is completely fine. However, that feeling is only going to change with you getting comfortable with conversing in a way that helps you convert. So when you pick up the phone and you're calling people who have either tapped into your lead generation, DM'd you, texted you, they've expressed interest in what it is that you're doing, right? You're not going to focus on the sale. You're just going to build trust, ask better questions, provide value, and extend a confident invitation. Okay? Because every single conversation is an opportunity to lead. And every leader who communicates with clarity creates more opportunities to serve. They create more opportunities to influence. And we create more opportunities to grow. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because truly, that's the only way that we get better. It's always uncomfortable and weird and awkward and all these things until it's not. Until we get well versed in what it is that we're doing. Okay, so use this opportunity to start to practice and to use these methods. Okay. and let me know if you have any questions. I love you. Have a blessed rest of your day. And I will see you right here the same time next week. Or if you're watching the replay, I'll see you whenever you hit play. Have a blessed day, guys. Bye.